Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda, all glories to the Prabhupada Disciples Association membership. We're happy to have you on board today for our weekly readings and discussions. Today's class is on the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and I wanted to mention before we start that there is a beautiful picture of Prabhupada at the end of that kirtan that was being broadcast before the beginning of the class. And it includes Jagadish Prabhu and his son Nirmala Chandra. And I recall that fondly, Jagadish with his son back in Toronto in the early 70s when we joined the mission and were transferred from Hamilton to Toronto, a group of us. We had 18 Prabhupada disciples initiated from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And eventually we were transferred to Toronto to help the mission there, and they closed, unfortunately, at the time, the Hamilton Center. So Jagadish was the president of the Toronto Temple at the time. He had come from Buffalo, New York, which was a center operated by a godbrother, Rupanuga Prabhu. And it was through their work that Krishna Consciousness came to Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And from there, it continued to expand into Toronto. And so the history goes that the Sankirtan mission was being propagated through on-street chanting and distribution of a variety of books, especially in the early years. We distributed the Back to Godhead magazine. Now, this Back to Godhead magazine, Prabhupada called it the backbone of the movement. And some of you newer people will not be aware of the significance of the Back to Godhead magazine. We used to literally sell hundreds of thousands of Back to Godhead magazines in the heydays of ISKCON in the 70s. In Toronto, we used to get containers, air containers filled of Back to Godhead magazines and used them to distribute on the streets as an introduction into Krishna consciousness. And we're planning with our group, Prabhupada Disciples Association, to print a magazine called the Hare Krishna magazine. And it will become a tool for our membership to distribute to other people that they meet on the principles of Krishna consciousness that were expounded by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami for helping others become devotees of Krishna. So this, we're looking forward to that in the near future, to published this magazine, the Hare Krishna magazine, and use it as a tool for preaching our message globally. So we'll keep you posted on that news. And moving forward with the Prabhupada diaries. We've been reading the diaries as part of our introduction into the program to give everyone a chance also to be able to get to the Bhagavatam or Gita or Chaitanya Charitamrita reading and discussion, which is part of our regular programs. But initially, we have here the diaries of Śrīla Prabhupāda, which give real insight. If you're in any kind of work environment, you usually have a things to do list every day, whether you're running a business or you're running a movement like Prabhupada was. He had this diary which was very important to him to keep track of his daily progress. So we'll go to March 28th, 1966. Sunrise, 5:49 a.m., sunset 6:22 p.m., moonset Astami. Today I went to see the landlord with Dr. Mishra and Mrs. Jones. The lady manager is already informed of the incident. Did I skip something, Vinkat? Oh, March 26th. It should be March 26th. Sorry about that, everyone. Sunrise, 5:53 a.m., sunset 6:19 p.m., moonset 11:18 p.m. Shasti. Today, when I came back from Dr. Mishra's apartment at 1 p.m., I saw my window on the door broken, and entering the door, I saw my tape recorder, typewriter, and book bag stolen. A separate note is written in this connection. At 2 p.m., Mrs. Labland came to take me to the ashram, and I went there. The whole thing was upset. Purchased one bottle of sour salt, 30 cents. No income. So despite the fact that it was quite a significant thing that happened to Śrīla Prabhupada, he seemed to take it in stride without being too upset. It certainly didn't take up a lot of room in his diary. Sunday, March 27th, sunrise 5:51 a.m., sunset 6:20 p.m., moonset 11 o'clock, Saptami. Today, whole day, I was in the ashram, and I came back in the evening at 6:30 p.m. At 9 in the night, Dr. Mishra, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Ella, Miss Yolanda, and others came to see the condition of my room. All of them are of the opinion that the superintendent has a hand in this mischief. I spent the night at Studio 501. One Mr. Howard of 71st Street became acquainted with me. He appears to be a good friend. Monday, March 28th, 1966. Sunrise, 6:49 a.m., sunset 6:22 p.m., moonset 29 p.m. Astami. Today I went to see the landlord with Dr. Mishra and Mrs. Jones. The lady manager is already informed of the incidents, and she told me that she has advised the superintendent to repair and fix up the bars to secure the room. But he has not done anything till now, neither he is at his room. Let me consult my friends who may come in the evening and decide things what to do. So, you can see from this incident that Krishna is making arrangements for Prabhupada to move on. Sometimes these circumstances that come upon us are difficulties, but in reality, there are blessings for us to carry on with our work. One letter received from Sri Tirtha Maharaj: the state of the country is too much perplexing on account of food situation. It is understood that loss of life and property in Bengal is beyond imagination. So again, just like these days, there's so much chaos in the political, economic, and social environments that we live in, that it is chaos. So no different from March 28th, 1966. Today I deposited in the bank $35. There was a meeting in the evening. 5 ladies and gentlemen attended. Bhagavad Gita discussed. No income. Tuesday, March 29th, sunrise 5:48 a.m., sunset 6:23 p.m., moonset 1:36 a.m. Navami. Today I went to see the loft of Mr. Paul. It is a big hall with kitchenette and shower bath, etc. Can be used for meeting and Sankirtan purposes very nicely. I think it will be a nice arrangement. So see what's happening. People are coming to his help because of the robbery. I do not know if Lord Chaitanya wants me to change my present place just to facilitate my missionary work. I do not find my loss for the typewriter. I do not mind my loss for the typewriter and tape recorder if I'm given the facility of my missionary work. It is Lord Chaitanya's grace that Robert today brought me an old typewriter, workable, he's not sure, and another gentleman who also, Mr. Peter Blaine, 161 West 75th Street, called me on Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. in his apartment number 3. Income: one set of books sold, a $16.80 check. Wednesday, March 30th, sunrise 5:46 a.m., sunset 6:25 p.m., moonset 2:37 a.m. Dashami. Today, one letter received from Rockefeller Foundation denying any help for starting the International Society for God Consciousness. The landlord's office visited. They want clear 1 month's notice of vacating the room, so it has to be decided tonight in the meeting. Mr. Peter Blaine handed over to me one German machine, bold type, in very nice condition. There was no cover, which has to be taken from him. Mrs. Rita Donbroff is unable to help because the man she knew is dead and gone. Praying Lord Chaitanya for guidance, whether I shall go to Paul's loft in Bowling, the Bowery. Deposited with the check for $16. Evening meeting was held and 7 ladies and a gentleman attended. No income today. It is settled that Sushman and Paul will come on Friday, the 1st of April, to take me to the loft. Paul. And finally, here, the last day of March, 1966. Sunrise 5:44 a.m., sunset 6:26 p.m., moonset 3:28 a.m. Ecodicy, 30 days clear notice served to S.N. Fletcher's landlord, registered letter number 43807, March 31st, 1966. I think the rent was $75, but Prabhupada is taking everything very careful, dealing with everything very carefully and legally. No income, expenditure, registration, 80 cents. Only 2 persons came today to meet me. The landlord repaired the window according to his liking. It is not approved by me. The door is still insecure. So lots of insight here from these writings by Śrīla Prabhupāda in his diaries for us to meditate on today as we move forward with our practice of Krishna consciousness. We're going to have the chanting of the Jaya Radha Madhava Bhajan by Śrīla Prabhupāda, and then the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Amasvat Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Sattvaresvara Smadhakti Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda ki Jai, Ramacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khand Radha Khand Giridhar ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Navadvip Dham ki Jai, Ganga Mai ki Jai, Jamuna Mai ki Jai, New Dwarka Dham ki Jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki Jai. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Śrīla Prabhupāda. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Don't think there's any sound here.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Narayanam namaskrityam. Narayanam namaskrityam. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances. After offering respectful obeisances, 1 to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2 to the Nara Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3 to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4 to Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. We'll be reading 2 verses from Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 17. Srinvatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto yabhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashta prayeshu avabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil. And thus, loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being, an irrevocable fact. So welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We are reading from the original 1962 New Delhi edition. Today we'll be reading from the 3rd chapter, Canto 1, 3rd chapter, Description of Incarnations of Godhead. It's also to be noted that today is the disappearance day of Śrīla Sachidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur, a very special day for us. This is one of our great acharyas and the spiritual master of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the spiritual master of our Śrīla Prabhupada. Text number 1, all English synonyms, translations, and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahadadibihi Sabhutam Shodashakalam Madoloka Sisrikshaya Sutta Uvacha. Sutta said, Jagrihe, accepted, Paurusham, plenary portion as Purusha incarnation, Rupam, form, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Mahadadibihi, along with the ingredients of material world, Sambhutam, thus there was the creation of, Shodashakalam, 16 primary principles, Ado, in the beginning, Loka, the universes, Sisrikshaya, on the intention of creating. Translation. Sutta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first of all expanded himself in the universal form of Purusha incarnation, primarily with all the ingredients of material creation, and thus at first there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was on the intention of creating the material universes. Purport. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita that the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, maintains this material universes by extending his part of plenary expansions. So this Purusha form is the confirmation of the same principles. Principles, singular. The original personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, who is famous as the son of King Vasudeva or King Nanda, the very same personality of Godhead is full with all opulences, all potencies, all fames, all beauties, all knowledge, and all renunciations. Part of his opulences is manifested as impersonal Brahman, and part of his opulences is manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of the same personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. There are 3 Purusha features in the matter of material creation, and this form, who is known as the Karano Dakshaya Vishnu, is the first of the 3. The others are known as the Garbo Dakshaya Vishnu and Akshiro Dakshaya Vishnu, which we shall now know, one after another. The innumerable universes are generated from the skin holes of this Karano Dakshaya Vishnu, and in each one of the universes, the Lord enters as Garbo Dakshaya Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is also mentioned, that the material world is created at certain interval, and then again it is destroyed. This creation and destruction is done by the supreme will on account of the conditioned souls, or the Nitya Baddha living beings. The Nitya Baddha, or the eternally conditioned souls, have the sense of individuality, or ahamkara, which dictates them for sense enjoyment, which they are unable to have constitutionally. The Lord is the only enjoyer, and all others are enjoyed. The living beings are predominant enjoyer, but the eternally conditioned souls, forgetful of this constitutional position, have strong aspiration for enjoying. This chance of enjoying the matter is given to the conditioned souls in the material world, and side by side they are given the chance of understanding the real constitutional position. Those fortunate living entities who catch up the truth and surrender unto the lotus feet of Vasudeva after many, many births in the material world become one of the eternally liberated souls, and thus are allowed to enter into the kingdom of Godhead. After this, such fortunate living entities have no more to come within the occasional material creation. But those who cannot catch up the constitutional truth are again kept merged into the Mahatattva at the time of annihilation of the material creation. When the creation is again set up, this Mahatattva is again let loose, and this Mahatattva contains all the ingredients of material manifestation, including the conditioned souls. Primarily, this Mahatattva is divided into 16 parts, namely the 5 gross material elements and the 11 working instruments or senses. It is like the cloud in the clear sky. In the spiritual sky, the effulgence of Brahman is spread all around, and the whole system is dazzling in spiritual light. The Mahatattva is assembled in some corner of the vast, unlimited spiritual sky, and the part which is thus covered by the Mahatattva is called the material sky. This part of the spiritual sky called the Mahatattva is only an insignificant portion of the whole spiritual sky, and within this Mahatattva there are innumerable universes. All these universes collectively is produced by the Karanodakshaya Vishnu, called also the Mahavishnu, who simply throws his glance only to impregnate the material sky to manifest. Text number 2. Yasyam vasishayanasya yoganidram vitanvataha navi hradam bhujadasid brahma vishvasrijam patihi yasya whose ambhasi in the water, shayanasya lying down, yoga nidram sleeping in meditation, vitanvataha ministering, nave navel, hradad out of the lake, ambujad from the lotus, asit became manifested, Brahma the grandfather of the living beings, Vishwa the universe, Srijam the engineers, Patihi master. Translation. Another plenary part of the Purusha is lying down within the water of the universe from the navel lake of his body, which has sprouted the lotus stem, which is the body of the universe, and on the top from the lotus flower, Brahma, the master of all engineers of the universe, is generated. Purport. The first Purusha is the Karanodakshaya Vishnu. From the skin holes of him, innumerable universes have sprung up. In each and every one of them, the Purusha enters as the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He is lying in half portion of the universe full with water of his body. And from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu has sprung up the stem of the lotus flower, the birthplace of Brahma, who is the father of all living beings and the master of all demigod engineers engaged in the matter of perfect design and working of the universal order. Within the stem of the lotus, there are 14 divisions of planetary system, and the earthly planets are situated in the middle. Upwards, there are other better planetary systems, and the topmost system is called Brahmaloka, or the Satyaloka. Downwards, the earthly planetary system, there are 7 downward planetary systems domiciled by the Asuras and similar other most materialistic living beings. From this Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, their expansion of the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the collective Paramatma of all living beings. He is called Hari, and from him all incarnations within the universe are expanded. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Purusha avatar is manifested in 3 features, namely, first, the Karanodakshaya Vishnu, who creates aggregate material ingredients in the Mahatattva. Second, the Garbhodakshaya, who enters into each and every universe. And third, the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the Paramatma of every material object, organic or inorganic. One who knows these plenary features of the personality of Godhead knows also him, Godhead, properly, and thus the knower becomes freed from the material conditions of birth, death, old age, and diseases, as it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In this shloka, the subject matter of Mahavishnu is summarized. The Mahavishnu lies down in some part of the spiritual sky by his own free will, and thus he does lie on the ocean of Karana, from where he glances over his material nature, and the Mahatattva is at once created. Thus, electrified by the power of the Lord, the material nature creates at once innumerable universes, just like in due course a tree is decorated with innumerable grown-up fruits all at a time. The seed of the tree is sown by the cultivator, and the tree or creeper in due course becomes manifested with so many fruits. Nothing can take place without a cause. The Karana ocean is therefore called the causal ocean. Karana means causal. We should not foolishly accept the theory of creation by the atheist without any cause. The description of such atheists is given in the Bhagavad Gita. The atheist does not believe in the Creator, neither he can give any good explanation of the theory of creation. Material nature has no power to create without the power of the Purusha, as much as a Prakriti or woman cannot produce any child without the connection of a Purusha. The Purusha impregnates and the Prakriti delivers. We should not expect milk from the fleshy bags in the neck of the goat, although they look like breastly nipples. Similarly, we should not expect any creative power from the material ingredients. We must believe in the power of the Purusha, who impregnates the Prakriti or nature. And because the Lord wished for lying down in meditation, the material energy created innumerable universes also at once, and in each of them the Lord lay himself down, and thus all the planets and the different paraphernalia was created at once by the will of the Lord. The Lord has unlimited potencies, and as such he can perform as he likes in perfect planning, although personally he has nothing to do, and nobody is greater or equal to him. That is the verdict of the Veda. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shwanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunata Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunata Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a very important section of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Śrīla Prabhupada has often described that every verse in the Bhagavad Gita or Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam are very important. He once gave a comparison that the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita are like sugar. From any part of the container that you take, it will taste sweet. So here we have the different rishis of Nimesharanya. They're inquiring. Sutta Goswami is describing to them how this creation has come about. If we recall, there were different questions of the sages. There were 6 basic questions which were placed before Sutta Goswami. 1, what is the ultimate benefit for mankind? 2, what is the essence of all scriptures? 3, for what reason did the Lord take his birth from Mother Devaki? 4, describe the wonderful deeds of the Lord when he assumed the forms of Brahma, Rudra, etc., for the purpose of creating, maintaining, and destroying the universe. 5, fully describe the activity of Lord Hari's incarnations within this universe. 6, where has religion taken shelter after Krishna has retired to his own abode? So here we see this question number 4 about the purpose of creating, maintaining, and destroying the universe. We see this is a very important point. Various other religious faiths have their own description of the creation of the world. Just like in the Bible, it refers to, in the beginning, there was the Word. Well, what word was it? We find in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the whole creation emanated from the demigod Brahma. And here we see how this creation came about. In these 2 verses, Śrīla Prabhupada is describing the position of the 3 Vishnus. Karana Udaka Shayi Vishnu. This is the Vishnu that lies in the Karana ocean, the causal ocean. Garbha Udaka Shayi Vishnu. This is the Vishnu that lies in the bottom of each universe, in the waters, the Garbha Udaka water. And then the Kshiro Udaka Shayi Vishnu, the super soul of every living entity, who also resides in the ocean of milk, in Shveshtadvip. So this is the first text here is explaining, Prabhupada is explaining the position of the Mahavishnu. And then we have the text number 2 is also explaining the Garbha Udakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Now, when we analyze this, this is a very systematic description based on the commentaries of our previous acharyas. I've told the story before how in 1972 in Vrindavan, Śrīla Prabhupāda was in his room at the Radha Damodar temple, and several of us were there, and Śrīla Prabhupāda asked the question. He was there with his god brother O.B.L. Kapoor. He asked the question, can any one of you describe the 3 Vishnus? And this one devotee, Subal Swami, who was a very good preacher, he described the position of the 3 Vishnus. He gave their full names, their functions, their position, where they are, just like Śrīla Prabhupada is describing in these purports. And Prabhupada was listening very attentively and was very pleased. And he pointed out to Dr. Kapoor that these Western devotees have learned very nicely the philosophy of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Śrīla Prabhupada also describes in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the 7th chapter, in one of these texts, Vishnostu Trini Rupani. This description of the 3 Vishnus is also found in various Pancharatra literatures. And this is important for all the devotees to understand. That how is the world created? How does Krishna create the world? Does Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan stop his activities with his family, with Nanda Maharaj, Yasoda, with the gopis, with Radharani? No. He's eternally there, always enjoying the transcendental activities. But he has expansions. This Karano Dakshaya Vishnu, Garbho Dakshaya Vishnu, and Kshiro Dakshaya Vishnu, they're expansions of Krishna for the purpose of creating the world again and again. We've just seen in our Bhagavad Gita readings and discussion in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, our Lord Krishna explains that this material world is created again and again, bhutvat pradiyate. That when the night of Lord Brahma comes, again there is devastation. At the end of the life of Brahma, all these living entities go back in the body of Mahavishnu. And then at the end of when Mahavishnu decides that he will breathe again, then these universes come out. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there's a few Sanskrit words that describe saikshata, that when Lord Krishna glanced over the material energy, then the material nature became agitated, the Mahatattva came, and it sets a whole chain reaction of how the material world is activated. Now, this is quite amazing. If we were to take each and every sentence in here, we could talk about this for several hours. There are so many different topics, subtopics. Very important point. Because people are sometimes bewildered by the atheistic propaganda that everything happened by chance. Of course, the persons with a poor fund of knowledge and with a foolish disposition will advance these arguments, but they can't explain how they got here. Did they get to this position by chance? Did they get their education by chance? Were their house where they live, is it by chance? Were they born just by chance? This is a ridiculous, nonsensical proposition. It is nonsensical because it is totally irrational and it is not logical. It defies any of our practical perceptions. We see in this world that everything has a cause. But out of frustration born of sense gratification, they advance these nonsense ideas. I was just reading yesterday, Prabhupada was having a conversation with Hayagriva, his Sanskrit is English editor. And they were discussing, Hayagriva was explaining the atheistic philosophy of this theory that everything happened out of a big bang. Somewhere or other there was some big explosion, a big bang. Well, there was no big bang. According to the Bhagavatam, there was Lord Brahma, an agent, a powerful demigod who was in charge of creation, and he uttered the syllable Om. And that set up everything. From sound, everything gradually became manifested. This is the Vedic understanding. And gradually all the living entities were populated in the universe. Rudra, Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, the various demigods, everything came from Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Everything is manifested from Krishna. Nothing happens by chance. There is an interesting text in Śrīla Prabhupāda's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text number 8, where Śrīla Prabhupada quotes from the Narayana Upanishad, as well as the Narayana Atharvashiras Upanishad, that describe that in the beginning of the creation there was only Narayana. Narayana is an expansion of Lord Krishna. And this particular chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is very important, especially for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because as we will see in this description of incarnations, we will come to the text, Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam. Śrīla Prabhupada and all of our previous acharyas in the Gaudiya line have explained that this is the important text, the most important text of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that explains the unique position of Lord Krishna. He's the origin of all incarnations. And in the material world, all of these different demigods, they all are manifested from the person of Narayana, the expansion of Lord Krishna. Now, this is an important point because, of course, in this country or Canada or other Western countries, you're not going to get too many people that are familiar with the intricacies of these discussions. But in South India, you will, because there are different Vaishnava Sampradayas there who believe that Lord Narayana is the original and Krishna is just an incarnation. But Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam clearly explains different. It's very important to understand. There is a book that was written by Rupa Goswami during the time that the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita was being written. Rupa Goswami wrote a book called Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Laghu Bhagavatamrita is a book which is a summary of all the incarnations. He systematically goes through every incarnation in every age and explain how Lord Krishna is considered the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's important to note, and I'm sure many of you know this, that there are two primary verses which are quoted incidentally by our Śrīla Prabhupada many times. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarava Karana Karanam. And in the same Brahma Samhita, we have the text, Rama Dimurti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan Nana Avatara Makarat Bhuvani Shukintu Krishna Swayam Samababat Paramah Pumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. These two particular texts are cited by Śrīla Prabhupada and also by great acharyas like Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and others, and many other texts from the Vedas and other Bhagavatam, to show and explain our Krishna. Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramah Pumanyo. He is the Supreme Personality from whom all the different avatars come. So again, coming back to this Upanishad, the Narayana Upanishad, It's very important to see how our acharyas have quoted from numerous Vedic literatures to defeat the bogus idea that all the demigods are the same, that Krishna and Shiva and Kali and Ganesh and all of these different demigods are the same. It is not. We've often given examples of Śrīla Prabhupada citing in the Sri Upanishad in his purport how if you take a train from Calcutta to Bombay, you will not end up in Madras or in Chennai. You will end up in Bombay. Of course, you can try to jump the train and take some other train, but when you buy a ticket, you're going to end up at that destination. So this is what we're facing. There is a various individuals and so-called persons claiming that they follow the Vedas, but they are misrepresenting the Vedas by misrepresenting Krishna's position and the position of all the avatars of Krishna. Now, I'm not referring to these Vaishnava Sampradayas. I'm referring to the Advaita Mayavadis. Mayavadam asat shastram prachannam bhaudamuchyate. Mayeva kalpitam devi kalo brahmana murtina. In the Padma Purana, it is described from Lord Shiva to Devi, his consort, that in the age of Kali I will appear as a Brahmana and explain Asat Shastra, these false scriptural explanations. Prachannam Baudamuchyate, it is a form of Buddhism, impersonalism, nihilism. Mayeva Kalpitam Devi, I will come. This predicted the appearance of Shankaracharya. Now, we have often heard Śrīla Prabhupada explain our Shankaracharya was a Vaishnava in disguise. Everyone is familiar with his song, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Mudamate. Now, you fool, you're simply busy studying your Sanskrit combinations, but this will not help you at the time of death. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane. Simply worship Govinda. Are they doing that? No. Shankaracharya composed a hymn to Lord Jagannath called Jagannath Ashtakam. 8 verses praising Lord Jagannath. Do they study that? No. Shankaracharya wrote a hymn to Lord Narasimha. Narasimha Karavalamba Stotram. Do they practice that? Do they study that? No. They're too busy with their mental speculation and word jugglery. Too busy with their word jugglery. Along with Achyutananda Swami, we once asked one of these big pundits that if you are proclaiming Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, that only Brahma is the truth, your mat here, is that Mithya or Satya? If you admit that it is Satya, it is real, then you've defeated your own philosophy. If it is false, then why don't you give us the title to the mat and we'll use it? What is it? He just laughed. He could not answer. This is a typical example of the nonsensical rascal philosophy. Just like nowadays, we have this modern Mayavadi impersonalist philosophy. Oh, everything came by chance, some big bang. Prabhupada used to always ask, well, where did the ingredients come from? Who created the Big Bang? It's amazing how these people who claim to be highly educated, did they get their PhDs and master's degrees by chance? Everybody knows you don't get a master's degree by chance. You don't get a PhD by chance. You have to study. You have to go to school from a person. But due to Kali Yuga and the influence of this nonsense, rascal, age of quarrel philosophy, everybody is bewildered. Everybody is bewildered. We see nowadays so many Vaishnavas, or people who claim to be Vaishnavas, or pseudo-Vaishnavas. They're busy preaching that Prabhupada is dead and gone. Prabhupada is not available because Prabhupada is not physically here. And you people that are preaching that Prabhupada is available, you are just like Christians or some other religion. Just see the madness. We've often said, we read this book every day. we read, and in the beginning of this book, this 1962 edition, we see that Śrīla Prabhupada says, to Śrīla Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, my spiritual master, on the 26th annual ceremony of his disappearance day, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. I don't know if this has been rubbed out or edited out of their current edition, but if anybody ponders and discusses the meaning of this, he can very intelligently understand that the Acharya is not dead and gone. Today is the celebration of the disappearance day of Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur departed in 1914, he arranged to put a plaque on the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri. And the plaque is a very famous thing. He reasons ill who tell that Vaishnavas die. That whole nonsense philosophy, the Acharya is dead and gone. This is atheistic nonsense. It's based on ill reasoning. Atheistic nonsense reasoning. Our whole philosophy is based on Vani. That Vani is more important than Vapu. But they're very quick to try to promote their Vapu. According to them, Prabhupada is not available. But they're very quick to promote their Vapu. So one should not be misled by such nonsensical, impersonalist nonsense. So many, now we see some people are preaching these modern day preaching, inspirational preaching. These little quotes and little quips, how you should be good and you should be nice and be positive and be aggressive, and if you pray, there's hardly anything about Krishna or Prabhupada or the Acharyas. It's some nonsensical, watered-down, compromised preaching. This is what we should be focusing about. This is what we should be focusing, hearing every word of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, every word of these purports. Just like yesterday, in the Bhagavad Gita class, one of our devotees in Hawaii, Janaspriya Prabhu, he gave a very nice example, explanation, that Śrīla Prabhupada once had to answer a question, what about your books? What if I can't read the whole book? And Prabhupada gave an explanation, I'm paraphrasing here, that even if you read one paragraph or one line, you'll be greatly benefited. And even if one just read one word, they'll be benefited. We see in other places that even if one just keeps the book in the house, they'll be benefited. Yesterday, I was reading a lecture where somebody asked Śrīla Prabhupada, well, what about animals? If they hear the Maha Mantra from a pure devotee or from a devotee, what about them? Prabhupada said, they will be benefited. They can be liberated. So that is the power of the Maha Mantra. And so today we are very, very grateful to the tremendous sacrifices and work of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Today is his disappearance day. What I'll be reading is reading a very small, a very quick bhajan, and after that we'll turn over for further discussion. This is a bhajan called Nadia Godrume by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan Patiachi Nam Hata Jivera Karan. In the land of Nadia, on the island of Godrum, the magnanimous Nityananda Prabhu has opened a marketplace of the holy name for the deliverance of all fallen souls. Shraddhavan Janahe, Shraddhavan Janahe, Prabhura Jnanya Bai Magya Yibiksha, Bolo Krishna Bhaja Krishna Koro Krishna Shiksha. There he calls out, O men of faith, by the order of Sri Gauranga, O brothers, I beg this one request. Chant Krishna, serve and worship Krishna, and follow his teaching. Aparad Shunyahoy Laha Krishna Nam. Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dana Pran. Being free of offense, chant the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is our mother, our father, and the treasure of our life. Krishnera samsara karo charyanachar. Jive daya Krishna nam sarva dharma sar. Carry on your worldly duties, but in relation to Krishna, and give up all sinful behavior. Show compassion to all fallen souls by loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna. This is the essence of all forms of religion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for that wonderful explanation of these verses. And I wanted to further refer to the Christian religion in that they have no understanding of who God is. And being raised in a Catholic family, I recall in catechism, which is the system for teaching children spiritual principles, they showed God as a judge behind a bench with no face. And this was their in-depth understanding of who God is. But here we have information from the Veda on how Krishna is manifesting this material world in detail. Prabhupada qualifies his purport as from the Veda. This is the verdict of Veda. So Veda, the Shastra, are a window to the spiritual sky. And Veda, Prabhupada uses the example, as one of our mothers. Just like if you want to know who your father is, you have to ask your mother. So the Veda is our mother, and in order to know our father, we must ask her, the Shastra. This is called the descending process of knowledge. There's ascending process and the descending process of knowledge. Ascending process, Yaśodā-nanda referred to the Big Bang theory. We also have Darwin's theory of creation, that we evolved from the monkeys. But we get the real information from Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. That everything happened by chance? I don't think so. As Yaśoda was explaining, that this world is not by chance, but it's by supreme intelligence. And this is not a very intelligent way to learn, by guessing, by coming up with theories. Everything has a cause, yes, and the Shastra, through Guru, reveals the inner spiritual process of creation by Krishna. So, I'm going to show this here. Here is the beautiful picture of the original Bhagavatam. And Vinkat, I don't know, do you have a copy of this cover here? Prabhu? Vinkat, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you have a copy of this cover?
I can probably find it online.
Okay, what I wanted you to do is, if you could go to the cover explanation on the inside of the cover. I'm going to read it quickly for us, even though it's the cover of this Bhagavatam. It is a revelation of creationism in a picture form. And here you see the Goloka Vrindavan and Garbo Dakshay Vishnu and Kashiro Dakshay Vishnu. So I'll read the cover explanation for us. The original spiritual planet resembling a huge whirl of lotus flower is called Goloka Vrindavan, the abode of Lord Krishna as the original personality of Godhead. 2. The original planet, Goloka, is throwing a spiritual ray of effulgence called by the name Brahmajyoti, or the ultimate goal of the impersonalists. 3. Within this unlimited Brahmajyoti, there are unlimited number of spiritual planets, and there are innumerable material planets within the sun rays of the material universes. These spiritual planets are dominated by the plenary expansions of Lord Krishna, and the inhabitants are there, ever liberated living beings. They are all four-handed. The Lord is known there as Narayan, and the planets are known as Vaikunthas. In some corner of the spiritual sky of Brahmajyoti, sometimes a spiritual cloud overtakes, and thus the covered portion is called Mahatattva. The Lord then, in his portion as Mahavishnu, by his portion, lies down in the water within the Mahatattva, and the water is called causal ocean, Karanajal. While sleeping within the causal ocean, innumerable universes are generated along with his breathing. These universes are floating, scattered all over the causal ocean. They stay during the breathing period of Mahavishnu. 6. In each and every universal globe, the same Mahavishnu enters, known as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and lies there in the Garbha ocean on the serpent-like Shesha incarnation. And from the navel abdomen of him, a lotus stem is sprouted, and on the lotus Brahma, the Lord of the universe, is born. Brahma creates all living beings of different shape in terms of desire within the universe. He creates also the sun, moon, and other demigods. The sun is also situated almost in the middle in each of every universe, and distributes profuse light and temperature all over the universe. There are millions and billions of suns in the of universes, all compact with in the Mahatattva. The suns and moons are required within the universe because they are dark by nature. The Vedas instruct to go out of the dark universes and reach to the glowing effulgence of Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti 8 is due to the illuminating Vaikuntha planets, and thus there are no need of sun or moon or power of electricity. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Prabhupada says here in the cover on the inside jacket, helps us reaching the supreme planet, Goloka Vrindavan, and the door is open for everyone. The human life is meant for this particular aim of life called the highest perfection. So, such a wonderful, illuminating understanding through our spiritual masters' books, and this is called the descending process of knowledge. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
Well, this is quite significant because we've been discussing so many different topics as part of these readings and discussions. And here we have Śrīla Prabhupāda in these two texts, right in the beginning of this third chapter of the first canto, giving a detailed, systematic explanation of how the material comes about. There was a very interesting event in Bombay in December of 1972, where one Indian gentleman went to see Śrīla Prabhupada, and he seemed to be, just from the line of questioning that he had with Śrīla Prabhupada, he was very materialistic. And Śrīla Prabhupada was explaining how everything in the universe has a cause. There is nothing that happens by chance. And this person obviously had been indoctrinated in modern atheistic environment. And he says, well, I can't accept that. Prabhupada said, well, then how do you explain the creation? How did this come about? Can you explain? Obviously, the man had no explanation. But we can see what Prabhupada has done here in these first two texts. If you analyze all of this, it's very systematic. How it happens, who are the personalities involved, what are the various elements involved in the creation, what happens in the universe, how the universe is originally populated by Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and from his navel all the planets are there. Lord Brahma comes out from the top of his navel. And now somebody may say, well, I don't accept this. When Prabhupada's point, well, if you don't accept this description, then why don't you explain to us how it happened? And Prabhupada could see the person had no explanation. Simply some word jugglery. Prabhupada is not giving word jugglery here. Everything is very clear. That's why when we see the cover of Śrīla Prabhupada's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, we see here Prabhupada is showing how the whole universe, there's Goloka Vrindavan, there's the Karana ocean, there's Mahavishnu, there's all of the other universes. Everything is explained. And this kind of knowledge, that's why the Bhagavad Gita says, Rajaguhyam. It is the king of education. It is the most sublime transcendental knowledge. And our job is to develop submissive oral reception to hear from a completely self-realized soul like Śrīla Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Yaśoda, I see on the chat there is some question here to you. Are you able to read it?
I've had problem with my screen today. Let's see here.
Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it for you.
I can see now the chat. Can I ask you that we hear this description given by Prabhupada, but we also hear Prabhupada say 1/4 of the spiritual world is the material world. The cloud text seems to say the material world is tiny, but the quarter seems much bigger. Can you explain this difference? These various statements come from the Taittiriya Upanishad and the Rig Veda also, the Yajurveda and the Rig Veda in the Purusha Sukta, where it's described that the material world is only 1/4 of the creation. But we have to remember, this is not an exact mathematical point here. There's unlimited spiritual planets. There is unlimited living entities. So it's an example given the Vedas to make us understand that we are in a small portion of the world. But even this world, this universe is pretty big. But there's millions and billions of universes coming out of the body of Mahavishnu. So we can't even conceive any of that. I mean, these universes come from the pore of the body of Mahavishnu. And it's basically, although there is an example to make us understand the greatness of the spiritual world, it's not that you're going to be able to calculate how many universes are there or how many planets are in the spiritual world. That's impossible to ascertain. I mean, basically, it's not very complicated, you know, because in the spiritual world, when one is liberated, there's no more of this division of time. There's no influence of the material energy. So that's what I can say at this point.
Okay, thank
Hare
you very
Krishna.
much. I see that we have Jonas Priya, our godbrother in Hawaii, with us this morning on the class. And I was hoping that he could mention a few Prabhupada insights to further give us an understanding of these particular texts that we've studied this morning in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Jonas Priya.
Hare
Haribol.
Krishna, glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. I was just thinking, you Prabhus are the nectar Prabhus. There's so much nice information coming. And I'm swimming on this nectar. It makes me very, very blissful, and within my miserable daily life, this is the highlight of my day, this class. It really is. And I look forward so much for it. I cannot say much about the discussion, but I could talk about how lucky we are that we have this association. And
Please go ahead.
And because the combination, we know in the Bhagavad Gita it said that the spiritual master, the pure devotee, is extremely, extremely rare. And the Bhagavad Gita says that out of millions of people, very few are looking for perfection, and out of those, even less find perfection. So to become a devotee of Krishna is extremely rare, and to meet a pure devotee, that combination is extremely difficult. I don't think it happens a lot. So we're so very fortunate that we have the chance to be with a pure devotee of Krishna. We were in the same room. He looked into our eyes. When Prabhupada looked into your eyes, you knew it. It was like, to me, it was like back, present, and future all there, and he could see what's in my mind. So, and when Prabhupada smiled, the first time that I saw Śrīla Prabhupāda, his car arriving in LA in the back alley, and the door opened, and Prabhupada came out, and he smiled, and it was like, I don't know, it was everything you could imagine right there. If you see Prabhupada smile, you were in the moment, and you could feel his love, you could feel his kindness, you could feel that he didn't discriminate. Prabhupada never discriminated on anybody that came to him. He will impart Divya Gyan to anybody that came with a humble attitude. So I'll tell one little story. When I got second initiation, in LA, there's a bench outside of Prabhupada's apartment, and we were sitting on this bench, maybe 15 people. And so the first devotee went in for second initiation, and he came out crying like real fast, like in less than a minute. And we go, "Wow, what happened?" This Prabhupada saw my bead bag, and he said, "If you want to be a Brahmana, you first have to learn how to become clean. So go and wash your bead bag and come back." So we all look at our bead bags. And so my turn came in, and I went in, and Śrīla Prabhupada says, "You chant 16 rounds." And I very proudly said, "Śrīla Prabhupada chant 32 rounds." And I thought Prabhupada was going to say, "Oh, wow, you're great." And he didn't say anything, you know. So then he told me to sit on beside him, and to show me how to count the Gayatri, and I couldn't do it. And he just made a gesture with a hand like, "Don't worry, you know, you'll pick it up." So he says, "I say, you say," and he started giving Gayatri, and somebody knocked on the door and said, "Prabhupada, there's some documents here, but they're time sensitive, and you really have to look at them right now." And he looked at me and he said, "I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to wait." And I'm sitting right next to Prabhupada, like inches. And this is the only time I was with Prabhupada that close. Me and Prabhupada in the room, and I was kind of like scared, you know, but at the same time I was so blissful. You could feel Prabhupada's energy was amazing. This devotee lady named Bhogavati, she was instructed to clean Prabhupada's desk, and they told her, you lift one item, you clean underneath that item, and you put it back exactly what it was, exactly. Because Prabhupada didn't have time to waste, and he got very upset when somebody moved anything in his desk. So there was a Tulsi plant in his desk, and this Tulsi plant was leaning heavily towards Śrīla Prabhupāda. So she was very curious, and she turned the plant. She turned the plant so that Tulsi was moving away from Prabhupada. And she looked at the pot, and so there were some markings. And next day, the plant was leaning the other way again, leaning towards Śrīla Prabhupada. I mean, to me, that's an amazing thing. So anyhow, Prabhupada gave me the Gayatri, and then he got the thread. They come from India, all rolled up. He unrolled it, put it on his knees, made it straight, then very carefully put it over me. He didn't touch me. And then he said, "This does not make you a Brahmana, but this gives you the opportunity to become one. So don't waste this opportunity." Hare Krishna.
Perfect. Yes, in terms of initiation is really a formality to enable a person who has a real desire to become Krishna conscious possible. This is so really a person who is serious, they are the ones that become initiated by their efforts. Because initiation means, as Prabhupada explained on a lecture that we were listening to, that initiation means to start a process, initiate, you begin. And it is a journey that you undertake throughout your entire life. Just like we have the blessing of Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu with us. And he took up Krishna consciousness at the age of 17, I believe, and in the 60s. So he was an early disciple of His Divine Grace. And Prabhupada would tell us that it is not so much who starts the race, but who finishes. And so we're very blessed to have Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu with us and sharing his understanding of Krishna consciousness in these classes. Prabhupada had mentioned to him, because he is such a scholastic person, very remarkable in his memory capacity with all these verses, Prabhupada had asked him, why would he go to the West when the people there wouldn't understand very much? Be better for him to stay in India, I'm paraphrasing, but we're very fortunate that he is with us in this Prabhupada Disciples Association weekly sadhana classes and giving us all the Prabhupada nectar that we can enjoy, as you mentioned, Janaspriya. And we want to thank you for your participation and your insights as well, and all of you who are participating in this program of restoring the Prabhupada focus into his mission. This is really the goal, one of the goals of our group. And all of us should understand that Prabhupada is a transparent via media for the insight into the transcendental world that Krishna is supervising. And somehow or other, by Krishna's blessing on us, we're all able to associate with Prabhupada in these sessions through his transcendental sound vibration, Shravanam Kirtanam. And this is a very fortunate time in history for all of us. And I want to thank everyone for participating. We'll be back again next Wednesday evening for the Chaitanya Charitamrita reading and discussion. And we'll carry on with this sadhana program. Please visit our YouTube page, Krishna Consciousness Movement, YouTube, and catch the past programs. We have over 110 readings and discussions now that are being saved online for current and future benefit of other devotees, sincere devotees that are interested in taking up this process. I was speaking Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu to some devotees yesterday, and I was saying, it was Bhaktivedanta actually and his friend in Sacramento, and I said to them, what's going to happen when all the Prabhupada disciples that are living are dead? And people don't want to create any new disciples because they say that these other people should be the gurus of the future. Well, the fact of the matter is the most important people are the disciples of Śrīla Prabhupada, and that is one of our missions here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association, to maintain this legacy with all of you moving forward into the future. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada, all glories to the Prabhupada Disciples Association. If Venkat Prabhu, if you could please bring forward the kirtan from the 60s. You can hear Prabhupada play the bongo, and everyone try to play the cartels and chant along with them, everyone. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let us offer respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Haribol.